And here we are, guys. Welcome to round 16 of the IIRL Racing League, and we are in Mexico for the next round of the Assist Tier 1 tier. And this is it's a track that's grown on everyone. I think it's turned into quite a popular track. It's just with a very tricky final sector. I'm sure it was. I'm sure that doesn't sort of mask how great the track actually is. So, with all that, I hope you enjoyed the stream that I hope this stream that Sun God went with last night, and to grace us, and he's there gracing us with his presence, subbing for the Alpine with SLR Connor as well. It's interesting. Both these guys are reserving for German and FIA John B. With 15 runners, you could say there's not really much. 15 runners. I think what happened last time when we tried to do something in this sort of race, there wasn't much in terms of consequence, but I can't really imagine anybody would be going out. Well, when I say that, they'll be going into the they're going out of the track, but they won't be dropping out of Q1 because literally everybody is probably getting a guarantee to go through. But I hope you've all had a lovely Christmas and a very, very happy New Year. And here we are, obviously get started with the new session. If you just joined us in the chat, then obviously drop something in the chat and let us know who you are. It would be great to obviously see you guys about and just see what's on your mind after the crazy, crazy stuff that happened in real life Formula 1 last year, and what you'd be looking forward to most in 2022. As we just see now, Millsy is out in the McLaren. He's the first one to go out for this Mexican Grand Prix qualifying session. Now, for those who don't know, Millsy is a driver who is he's a very crafty racer. He certainly knows how to make the tyres work, and is very much, I've seen for his recent races, he's certainly been one who's certainly up for contention. And I see RA19 Hawks is back, so very, very good to have him back after a while since we've last seen him. I know I very much enjoyed racing with him in 82, so it's lovely to have him back as well. So Millsy is the only one out so far. So with the times is where you can expect in Mexico, you should probably expect about a 1 minute 15-14 maybe to kick off this particular session. To see the long S's, which are very tricky to get right, especially in time trial where the game goes on Michael Massey and just invalidates you for it. RAs, how are you? Great to have you on board with us. Happy New Year to you. So hope everything well for you on this side. So we are going to roll on board with Millsy for the first lap of 2022 for the 81 tier of IIRL Racing. This goes down to the first corner with speeds getting up to over 200 or so miles an hour. They don't have the altitude problems in real life. As it goes down to the first corner, very nice line he's taken through there, and with that he's taken the preferred line of going over the speed bumps. They should be able to get as much track time. They should get him about a couple of tenths in that first sector. He goes with a 28.3. That's the first benchmark time so far, as it goes down to the very tricky second sector, where these corners, when you have this right-hander, two corners, which, let's be honest, is more like one. Hoping for a clean race. I'm certainly hoping for a clean race myself, as we have Millsy going down through the S's, but he's invalidated his time, so he will have to go again. And Harry Bootle, thank you so much for the follow. We are now, I believe, 166 for the IIRL Racing League. Not long, I think, now before we close up on the looming 200, I feel. So thank you so much for following. What is Millsy going to do? He's going back out to set another time. So in between then, we are going to go on board maybe with, let's see who's, so Sammy's just started a time. Wiggles has just started a time, so we are going to go back and see what 1010 is doing, and he is now He's on the medium tyre, interestingly. Yes, definitely sweet. Sun God is racing as well. I'm expecting him to be the speed god today. And he obviously does a wonderful job hosting the no assist streams for this league as well. So I just want obviously just make sure to say a good well done and thank you to him for all of his efforts in the streaming of these IIRL races. As Platty sets the initial pace with a 16.2, we have 10.10 coming along with an 18.0. So that's not quite where we need to be. Let's go on board now with RA19 Hawks, because, like I said, it's been a very long while since we've seen this man racing. I'm not sure where everybody is, to be honest, our race. It's a bit of a mystery, but I'm still sure there's plenty to enjoy with this round of Formula 1. As we go down to the final corner, as Hawks comes across the line, what kind of time should we see from him? It's a 1 minute 16.3, so it's a nice sort of comeback lap, and hopefully that will be enough to get through. Commence goes P3 with a 16.4. Millsy does a 15.6, but I think has invalidated his time yet again. So another lap he's got to do. We're taking more life out of his tyre, so it won't be ideal for him. As the Haas gets out of the way, we are going to go on board with the Alpine of Sun God. Felt very tentative, that one. Is he definitely on a timed lap? A little bit tentative as it comes across that tight right-hander. I think we should try and roll on board with the S's, because it's very, very hard, as you'll probably imagine, to stay with the cars. No, this doesn't look particularly fast from Sun God, so let's see what he does across the line. It's a 58.8. However, yeah, I think he may well have backed out of this one. Yes, I can't see this being a groundbreaker over time, but let's see what Wiggles does. He's down in P12. I think he must have invalidated his time, more than likely on the S's. Set it to track map. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for pointing that out, RA. Sorry I didn't do that before. But let's go on board with Wiggles now. Assist tier 2 champion last game out. It feels, I would want to say last year, but he keeps the car on the tarmac. 56.6 for a second sector. As we come into the stadium section, and God, I love this shot. It's very cool to look at, but in terms of racing, it's a very tricky one to watch. Hyper, how are you doing, my friend? Great to see you on this stream. Wiggles goes fastest with a 16 flat. Now, who is still out on time? And Appy goes 6th with a 17.3. SLR Connor is now out on the medium compound tyres as they're yellow flags as the cars try to get out of each other's way. But Millsy goes fastest with a 15.3. Absolutely, that's a brilliant pace setter there. And very, very soon, I suspect we'll be going into the 1 minute 14s. So yellows in sectors 1, 2 and 3 as everybody tries to get out of each other's way, as Greg and Fairley are also on outlaps themselves. Little bit of understeer there. Probably veered a little bit too far wide, which would have ruined his entry into the tight right-hander. And then the almost kind of double corner, so we got here, that was taken very, very well, that has to be said. Takes plenty of curb, just about gets away with it, so he has invalidated his time. SLR Connor really pushing the track limits where he can, but the back end steps out on him, and that's not a, it's far from ideal. It would have cost him a little bit of time, but it's far from a suboptimal lap as it goes down into the stadium section, which it used to be the old Parabolica, as Appy has retired from this session. But on medium tyres, he won't take pole, I think, but he does do a 16 flat, actually matching the same time as Wiggles there on medium tyres. So that really was a brilliant lap for the Alpine. Looks like Esla O'Connor will be continuing the trend of fast Alpines in this tier. But AMS Fairley is doing a 56 flat for his last sector time, but unfortunately it doesn't look like his last sector was quite there because he's done a 16.1 to round up the lap. Wiggles retires from the session, and Iros J has invalidated his lap time. Him into the pit lane. Now we see the leader of this tier, Padge, the legend that is Padge, Sir Padge-a-lot. I could probably think of a million nicknames, but that'll cringe everybody to death, so I'm not sure that I'm going to. Let's go on board with the Red Bull, who, if you remember, during the social races, actually won the Silverstone Grand Prix. I was fighting tooth and nail with him, I believe once again, but unfortunately, I crashed out. As Padge has invalidated his time, that means he will not be setting a time that's representative. He actually backs off, I think, to try and get some. Try to maintain some life within his tyres, and besides him, the Bullet is still yet to set a time, but he's coming out now in the Aston Martin. AMS Fairley now goes fastest on soft tyres with a 15.2. Sorry I didn't get around to seeing that time, viewers, but with that, it's a McLaren 1-2. But what can Padge do in the Red Bull? Thursday to Sunday's race. Yeah, those ones are definitely interesting, but I've got they're probably not interesting to me. If you want to watch me spin, that's probably the only reason why it's interesting. But it's very, very close racing, it has to be said. There are some brilliant driving. And I have to say, John B's performances have certainly been exceptionally dominant. He's almost like regarded as the Jarno Opmeer of this tier, it has to be said. But with him obviously out of commission for this weekend, it's the two McLarens who are currently at the front at the top at this stage of qualifying. It looks like most cars will be going back into the pits. So Bullet is the one out doing a time. I know it looks like a little bit of lag there, and he's invalidated his time already. So that's not what he needs. So the next one is Sammy Style, who's also on an outlap. So comes round in the Alpha Tower, running the number 95, which is the name that I run on the in this game, the Formula 1. I'm not sure why he chose that one, but I chose it because it's Lightning McQueen is currently my the reason why I choose that, because Cars is one of my most favourite films. And it's certainly one that kind of... It's a racing film that kind of teaches you a lot about what matters in life. I mean, with this, it is only a video game, but albeit a very, very fun one. Plus it's Pixar as well, because I've also got a soft spot for Pixar. Yes, it could definitely spice things up for sure, our race. But let's see, obviously, what other people can do. Bullet's retired for the session. But it's very interesting because with the drivers, with only 15 racing and only 5 people going out, then it doesn't look like anyone's actually going to be leaving this qualifying session. There's a bit more to follow here, as we have a lap upcoming from Sammy Style. Now, it's always useful to go out and get a little bit more track time here, because it helps to at least give you a bit more of a... It's more lessons learned in terms of where the grip is, but the only downside is that you could be showing your hand to other people. But nevertheless, Sammy Style he's a second down, actually, on his time, so I shouldn't expect this to be anything too competitive. But nevertheless, it could be just a little bit more practice before Q2. So Alrays, absolutely, I love them as well. It's somehow Cars 3 ended up being one of my favourites, but Cars 2, I just pretend that that movie doesn't exist, because it's just so unbelievably bad. So I think there we have it, guys. It doesn't look like anyone else is going to be going out, so that will effectively be it for this qualifying session. So unless Platty, let's see what Platty does, but with everybody retiring, that looks to be it. For 3 is a good film, because it kind of reminds me of today's Formula 1. You had, if Lewis Hamilton is Lightning McQueen, Max Verstappen is Jackson Storm, who has just taken his title. And Josh Wilson, Sammy Styles' Barmy Army. So you're supporting, no doubt who you're supporting. But obviously, thank you for joining the chat. Sorry I never got round to sort of welcoming you. But thank you for joining if you're still watching. It looks to be it then, guys. That's it for qualifying. So if you are watching the stream, then do let us know obviously how you're doing, and as well let me know the one thing that you're most excited about for the F1 2022 season. Is it George Russell going for the title? Is it a resurgence from Ferrari? Is it Haas not being terrible? Do let me know while we're passing the time in between now and Q2, and let's see what what you're looking most forward to next year. So, as you reckon, Connor's going for pole position with Fairley and Millsy behind. I wouldn't put that past him. He's done a slap on medium tyres, so it's definitely, he's not exactly showing his hand there, which could be all. It could be just the thing that he needs. All right then, guys. So for the sake of the stream, I'll just go through. Well, there's no point going through the order now because it's all going to change next time around. It's just the bit that's obviously in 50th for having not completed the time, and Padge also hasn't done a time. Connor did a 14.9 on Tuesday. On soft tyres, that is a very, very interesting dose. That does set with the track rubbering in though. Who knows what could happen? I mean, Fairley and Millsy could pull one back, but it certainly gets me very, very excited to see what's happening in this qualifying round. So onwards to Q2 now, guys. We see some cars ghosting themselves out of the way. It looks like everybody's starting to come out now. I believe it was 10-10 was the first one out with the Mercedes of, I think it might have been Appy. No, it was Greg. It was APS Greg behind, and both Alpines are out. I see it's yes, there's a multitude of drivers coming out. Songod is actually out on the medium tyre. SLR Connor is out on the softs. As 10-10 gets out of the way of the Mercedes, just so he could, I think, effectively to do his own thing. The Bullet goes out much earlier than he normally would. Sammy Style comes out on mediums. Who is still in the pits? We have Platty, Padge. I think Platty is actually coming. No, it's yeah, still 4 or 5, few drivers still left in the pits. So we are going to go on board with the Mercedes of APS Greg. So they reckon softs is the way to go. Let's see how this pans out for APS Greg as he comes around the final corner to start his first lap, and he's already invalidated because he's gone beyond the track limits. That puts an end to that one. Let's go back to 10-10, shall we? It's real life Alfa Romeo. They will not be having their 2021 drivers. They will be having Valtteri Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou. Let's see what 10-10 does for a first sector. It's a 28.9, so it's not the fastest we've seen, but with more and more laps under his belt, this should pave the way for an interesting session for 10-10. He takes those corners in third gear, which if on a higher gear, that should stop the car from fizzling out when it goes to put down the throttle. Otherwise, you'll just be into those barriers. And it goes very, very wide, but that invalidates his time, though. No, it doesn't. So 57.2, so again, not one of the fastest that we've ever seen. But it comes round to the stadium section. And by the time he gets out, what is the early pace setter for 10-10? It's a 17 flat, which was beaten already by Mr. Wiggles on the medium compound tyre. Millsy does an 18.6, so there was very much an off lap from him. SLR Connor tries to get out of the way. Songgod's time is invalidated, and the next one over the line should be a IIRL Appy, who as well does a 17.5. Not sure what's happening with the track. Cyrus J goes fastest with a 15.7. See, he's still learning the wheel. I've got to give him credit for that. As Hawks goes second with a 16.2. And who else is out to set a lap? Sammy Style on mediums goes fifth. I think the next one is the Haas, who's had his time invalidated. And Greg is coming into the pits. And 10-10 moves up the order with third. Bertie Boy, first time chat. Let's roll on board with Sammy Style for a bit. The people's champion. Sure there's a story to tell there. So 15.2 for SLR Connor to go fastest. As Sammy's looking to call off those medium tyres. But he's still on... He's only got about 30% ERS. So yes, he's pulling off into the pit lane. we're going to go on board with Platty then, while Sammy Style is in the pit lane. He stays in 4th gear for that sector. Let's see what he does when he comes across the line. It's a 28.7, so again, not the fastest that we've seen. Looks like those runners on the medium tyre are struggling a little bit, as SLR Connor is currently ahead of time, having already used his medium set in Q1. So not entirely sure what his thinking was there. Maybe he's trying to steal. And Platty has invalidated his time. Songod, on the other hand, he's probably made a mistake on his run, so he's not going to set a time. Yes, in fact, he's coming into the pits. Padge is on an outlap. But it was not quite the getaway that he needed. A little bit wide there from Padge for the first corner, but at least he straightens it up by the third. So that's a 28.9. It goes very wide once again, and he's invalidated his time, so Padge is up against it. So let's go on board with the Mercedes of Greg. SLR Connor, how are you, mate? You're obviously on top at the moment in timesheets. How do you feel like this qualifying session's going? We'll stay on board with the Mercedes to see if he navigates the S's well enough. He's keeping it on the track for now, even having to drop down to 4th at the beginning there, but he's gone very wide, it has to be said. Platty is retired from the session, so I don't know whether he's had an incident there. I think he has had an incident. So Platty, normally one of the contenders in the 81 tier, is out of qualifying. Padge also retired from the session, so Padge is definitely out, and Greg goes 10th. And now another retiree in the form of the Bullet. So, God, they're dropping like flies of everybody here. So, with that, I think Sammy, unless, with 3 people gone out, unless all the other drivers improve, so Sammy may be safe. Well, Appy is on his outlap on soft compound tyres, so expect him to improve. Songod as well is also on an outlap. Commence. What is he up to in the Haas? He's done a 56.6, so that's reasonably competitive. This should see him into the top 10, but he's invalidated yet again. It is so easy to invalidate a lap around this track. Which means I highly suspect that Commence will be having yet another cooldown lap. But for those who went on the medium tyres, they will have saved a set of softs for now. Now, let's get on board with the Mercedes of Appy. Very well taken, those corners, which keeps them onto the track and keeps them clear of invalidation. Let's see what the Mercedes does. He's 5/10 up. He's 5/10 up in his sector, and Fairley has retired from the session. And it looks like another driver has gone off. I think it may be 10-10 has gone off in the Alfa Romeo. And hopefully that doesn't get in the way of the Haas. It doesn't look like he's gotten in the way of the Haas. The curves in this game are so violent. If you take advantage of them, that's not going to be beneficial for you in the slightest. As Appy is now 8/10 up on his time. He could very close, but this will surely see him through. well, 8/10 faster. That could be a net 6th place, as they're yellows in Sector 3 as the Alfa Romeo stays out of the way. What did you do for a time? It's a 16 flat. That's good for 4th place, which means that Sammy Style is down into 9th. So Harry Bootle, how are you? Thank you for joining the stream. I hope you're very, very well. As Songod has invalidated his time, he and Commence are both up against it. Songod running the number 26, which belongs to... Oh, there's no tyre back there. The number 26, which belonged to the infamous torpedo known as Danny Kvyat. It's also on his gamer tag, so I'm going to assume that's the reason why. That was it for Josh Wilson. There's still about 3 minutes to go, so don't worry. Sammy Style is still yet to improve himself. But let's see what everyone behind him can do. Songod comes round to the 2nd sector. Let's see what he does for a 1st sector benchmark. It's a 28.6, so that's relatively okay. Millsy retires from the session, so if all things go well, he should be getting through on the medium compound tyre. Should give him some options for the race, but people think that soft tyre is the way to go, and that is a very wide turn in there for Songod. This isn't going to be a very competitive time unless he can make a very, very tidy final sector. Sammy Style is now going out for his outlap. Let's see what Songod does when he comes across the line. It's only good for P8. And I think that's probably going to be about as good as it's going to get for Songod, if I'm honest, because he's got if he gets through, he'll have to start the race on those tyres, but you don't want to take any more life out than you need to. Sammy Style is come out. He's currently in P10, so he is certainly in the danger zone. He's now coming through on the soft compound tyre to start his lap. And what is APS Greg going to do? And Commence is also on his outlap. It's just a case of how far Wiggles and Sammy Style can both get up the grid. Hawks as well is out on a lap. But this is the man in the danger zone, so let's go on board with him, as for some reason that tyre is still there on the glitch. This is the man in the danger zone, so let's see what kind of lap he does. A little bit late turning in, but it should be okay. Yeah, it looks reasonably tidy. It looks like it was very, very well taken. Let's see what he does for a 1st sector time. It's a 28.6, so he's a 10th up. Let's see if he can find more time in the 2nd sector, as APS Greg now retires, which means that only Commence can stop Sammy Style from getting through. So there's a lot of people in the chat showing support for Sammy Style, but this looks very, very tidy. He keeps it on the track. He's 6/10 up, so this should easily see him through. This could be good for around 6th place, and Hawks goes 3rd with a 15.7, so that's a very, very nice time from him. And what does Sammy Style do for a time? He goes 4th with that time. So Wiggles is the man in the danger zone. But he doesn't get rid of Songod, which means that Songod is safe. But no, Mr. Wiggles isn't safe, so Wiggles is out. And that settles it. That settles this qualifying session. And now Songod, by the skin of his teeth, has gotten through. Sammy Style recovers to P4. The two McLarens get through on the medium compound tyre. Commence is also through on the medium tyre. So I reckon Fairley's crashed. So, oh, that's very unfortunate. If he has crashed, that means he won't be taking any further part. But Commence is still... He's still got some time, but there's no need for him to push. Well, I don't think if who knows it. He's a 10th down now on his time, so now there's definitely no reason to push. Save the tyres and you might as well come into the pits. But no, it looks like he's pushing like hell. I think that might have been Platty. He's 5 thousandths off, but there's no real need for him to actually do that lap because he was safe. So yeah, guys, there we have it. That is the end of Q2, and now we see it was a very tight one. Now we see a few of them getting through on the medium tyres. That will give them certainly some more options for the race. So let's go through now the people who have dropped out. So we had Mr. Wiggles in 11th place in the Alpha Tauri. APS Greg is in P12. Platty, Padge, and the Bullet also out as well. But I think we'll know for sure, did any of the top 10 crash out, which, if they have, which means they won't be taking any further part. So it's going to be a very, very interesting session to see what comes out of there. Alright, I think with that, it looks like everybody's out just fine. Let's see if both McLarens come through. As you see, straight away, SLR Connor is out. And 1010 is out with him. The two McLarens also coming out. Sun God is out. Hawk's still in the pits. So still got a few of the drivers still remaining in the pits. Yeah, we've got 3 of them. Sammy Styles still in the pits as well. So this is the man that I think some people in the chat were tipping as favourite for pole position. SLR Connor in the Alpine, who I think he runs in the no assist tier. So this should be a very interesting session to see what he can do. But as Hawks is the only driver in the pits at this current time. Let's go on board with one of the favourites pole then, SLR Connor. Reaching just over 200 miles an hour. Let's see what line he takes in. That's a very tidy line, really feeding the car through the corners. A little bit of understeer there as it comes out of turn 3, but I don't think there's anything that's too threatening. Let's see what he does for a first sector time. It is a 28.3, so that is very, very fast. This guy did a 114.9 in the no assist tier, as one of the McLarens looks to slow down, just probably to get out of the way. But SLR Connor looking to continue the trend of fast Alpines in assist tier 1. And that looks very, very hooked up there. But has he gone too far? No, he hasn't. He's kept the car firmly planted on the track. And it's a 55.8 for a second sector, so that looks blindingly quick. as he comes down into the stadium section. Very tricky left-hander there, followed by the right, and onto the right-hander again. Drops down to second gear. What can SLR Connor do for a first bunchmaker time? It looks like it's going to be a good one, and it is a 14.9. SLR Connor does a 14.9, just as he did in the no assist tier, to set the benchmark time for that's the time so far to beat, and boy was it a good one. Iros J goes second with a 15.1. Sun God does a 15.4 to follow up in third. And Appy's time wasn't that competitive. 56.8 for commence, which is about a second down on what SLR Connor managed. We're probably looking at about a 1 minute 16 for the Haas as he comes across the line. What does he do? Yes, it's a 16.1. 28.7 for 10.10. Who's invalidated his time. Millsy as well has invalidated his time. Hawks is still in the pits. Fairley is invalidated his time. And Appy, though, has not invalidated his time. And Sammy Style is still in the pits. It's quite a nice line through there. It's a 56.5. So it's about 7/10 down on what SLR Connor did. But it should be enough to get him now into 4th place. As the McLaren of Fairley comes into the pits, we see Appy comes across the line, and what does he do? It is 4th place with a 15.8, nearly a second down on what Connor was able to do though, so that just shows just how brilliant of a time it was there for the Alpine driver. As Millsy tries to get a tow, but he is almost out of energy, so how is he going to make this work? I doubt this is going to be fully competitive because Millsy, as you'll see on the screen, is about to run out of energy. It's a 28.5 though, he kind of limps over the corner, but this is where he could recover some of that energy, so that could help him out in the long run. It's about 19%. Down to 6, down to 4. It's so close. Will he run out of deployment? No, he hasn't run out of deployment. Never mind his time. Is he gonna... Yes, he does have the energy. He is going to make it. What is Millsy going to do for a time though? It's not gonna top the timing sheets, but it is a 15.3. So that's good enough now for 3rd position. As Appy now comes into the pits, SLR Connor comes back out for another run. Fairley comes out for another run. Sammy Style is also out for a run. Kind of got over 20 viewers at the moment, the most. So thank you all very much for coming on board, for coming to join this stream. It's a lot of fun and nice to see so many faces around the IIRL Racing League. As Sammy Style comes through to start his lap, he's currently down in P10. But the AlphaTauri has waited a long time for the track to rubber in. But he hasn't got that long time to set 2 qualifying laps, unless he wants to come back into the pits to do so. It looks relatively tidy. Now, it was a 28.3 for SLR Connor. What does Sammy Style do for a time? It's a 28.6, so he's 2 or 3 tenths down. As of now, he's probably looking at about 3rd or 4th place. But let's see how he does across the S's. He's not quite as confident as Connor was through there. .56.5, so he's about 7 tenths down on the pole time. Yellow flags there, so it looks like a McLaren. Oh, but the back end steps out on that AlphaTauri, so that makes it a little bit difficult for him. as it comes around the start-finish straight. What is the AlphaTauri going to do for a time? Unfortunately, it's only good enough for P7. Philosopher, how are you doing? Great to see you. As Hawks once again is invalidated his time. 10:10, meanwhile, is on a time lapse, so we're going to stay on board with him. And I love this camera shot already. Look at that. What does 10:10 do across the line? It's a 15:8, so it's just below Appy. Fairly goes P2 with a 14:9. But SLR Connor is slightly down. But I think this will be him now coming around to start his flying lap. This is going to be a very, very crucial time. He's currently got the lead. But I fear, I'm not sure whether it's going to be fully enough to get round to the lead. And what has happened here, it looks like Fairley has spun. Yes, he has spun. So that's put a kind of damper on his hopes of getting pole. And Sammy Style looks like he's coming into the pits. .10 is 2/10 up on his time. That should, well, be only good for 6th place though. Iros J is 5 thousandths down on his time. Can he find an extra 2 or 3 tenths in this sector? Finally, we got to a broadcast view where we can really see what he's doing. Stays in 6th, but he's invalidated his time. Millsy is on an out lap. I'm sure Sammy's feeling the hype from all of the cheers in the chat. Hawks is in the pits. No, this isn't the time for SLR Connor. He's invalidated his time. Looks like Fairley's coming to the pits, but may very well be going out to get this. Yellows in sector 2. That's a 28.3. I think that matches. I think that's pretty much his SLR Connor's time. Hawks is retired, so he won't be going any further. But let's go on board with the Alfa Romeo, who has got an outside chance, I believe, of nabbing pole position from the Alpine. Or will it be business as usual for the Alpine team getting this L? He's 3/100ths up. But it looks like that pole will be going to SLR Connor unless he can pull out something amazing or amazing in another lap. As a 14.4 for SLR Connor. And wow, if there was any sniff of an opportunity, it's been wiped out now. That is a brilliant, brilliant time from SLR Connor to put his stamp on pole as Millsy goes second with a 14.7, so it would have beaten his original time, well, Connor's original time, that is, but still, that is an absolutely unbelievable time from SL Connor. I believe that actually matches his time trial time. Let's go on board and see who else still needs to run and complete a lap. I think the first one is Sun God, who's currently in 5th position. As Appy's up in his time, it's a 28.4, so it's a very good sector for him. But Sun God, I believe, is the next one to come round and set his... actually, no, he's not. He's way behind there. It's SLR Connor who's in front. But what can Millsy do? No, he's over a 10th down, so he's not going to improve, I fear. Iros J is not in the running to do it, though. So let's go back to Appy, who's doing a 56.4. So let's see where he improves to. This will be the end of qualifying. Sun God has also come around to do his time. Commence has also got... Appy actually comes into the pits. What can Commence do? He's invalidated his time. Who's behind him is Sammy Style. And we also got Song God behind as well. So we'll see what the AlphaTauri does across the line. It's P7. Well, Song God has also invalidated his time. He's actually crashes somewhat into the pits. But that is such a shame because he was 2/10 up. It wouldn't have changed his position. But that rounds out qualifying for this session, which means by nearly 0.3 of a second with an absolutely electric lap, SLR Connor takes pole position. So there you go, folks. There are your top 10. So Connor takes pole position, Millsy second, and followed by his teammate Fairley in the McLaren. Iros J goes into 4th position. Iros Sun gone into 5th. 1010 into 6th. Sammy Style in P7 with Commence in P8. Appy, Feet 9, and Hawks follows them up in 10th. So as is the end of the qualifying round, we are going to go to a quick break. The quick 5-minute break, just so everyone can kind of get themselves in order. But if you're enjoying the IIRL side of things, then why not check out the IIRL My Team series that is on currently my YouTube channel, Spark666. So if you finished, if you do fancy a little bit more IIRL to see how well they're doing on My Team, then do follow Spark666 on YouTube and do obviously like the video and subscribe to the account. That will be really helpful in producing future videos as well. So as of now, it's the break, guys. So if you want to go off and grab a coffee, or actually no, not a coffee, it's the wrong thing, it's not the time in the morning. If you want to go off and grab a drink or do your own thing, obviously that'd be great. But if you're sticking around for the chat, obviously, let me know what you're most excited for in Formula 1 2022. I mean, with the new cars changing, and I'll see you later. With the 2022 cars, or the drivers, or some of the tracks, or some of the controversy, whether it will be a silly decision from Michael Massey. I'll be honest, Always, that atmosphere at the Dutch Grand Prix, I mean, that's enough to make anyone want to go. And I think I'll definitely, if I do round to get the pace, I'll definitely be wearing the orange, and I'll certainly be having plenty of Heineken to go with that as well. So, but that was, in terms of atmosphere, the Dutch Grand Prix looked absolutely unreal. Oh, that's weird. Looks like someone might have pressed the button a little bit too early. Okay, that's strange. So with that, it looks like I don't think everyone might have got the message there that it was about a 5-minute break, unless 5 minutes went that quicker. Excuse me. So there we have it, folks. I mean, with everybody now coming onto the parade lap, we have our IRL Hyper joined behind the back in the Red Bull. So as we see, we have Millsy and Fairley on the medium compound tyres, as well as Commence also starting on the mediums. They could realistically do a one-stop, and Hawks has spun on the parade lap, it seems, which is a little bit unfortunate, but nevertheless. So if you started on the medium, you could do a one-stop onto the hards, but I don't like the hards in this game. They got absolutely no grip. So if it were me, I'd probably go onto a two-stop. So there we have it, folks. So we have both Red Bulls now on the track. I think we've got both Mercedes, both Haas, both Aston Martins, both Alpha Tauris, both... I think we're missing 4 drivers in particular. We're missing 4 drivers. We haven't got anyone from Ferrari. And Hyper spins out on the parade lap. Certainly quite chaotic parade lap already for this Mexican Grand Prix. So it seems like two-stop could very well be the way to go. Looks like the tyre differential on this track is probably just too great between the soft and the medium to make one-stop viable. But it could be an absolute blinder. There could be plenty of safety cars to contend with. And... So, Philosopher reckons a podium there for Sun God, whereas all 16 drivers are coming now down to the lap. They're coming down to the grid as the parade lap now is over. Let's go on toward what I think is the best view. As the 5 lights come out. And it's go! We are underway in Mexico. And looks like a very, very good start there from SLR Connor. But the McLaren on Fairley has got a very good slipstream behind him. It's going to be very, very close into the first corner. What is going to happen here? But no, SLR Connor looks like he's gone out to take the lead. But Millsy has lost out to his teammate. And looks at all this very, very tidy so far. But the Red Bulls also fighting with the 2 Aston Martins in the background there as well. And it looks like Greg is falling down the order. We got yellows in Sector 1, and it's 10-10. 10-10 has had an incident, but thankfully he hasn't been able to he hasn't retired from the Grand Prix, which means that the Alfa Romeo is still going, but that is severely hurting his chances of winning this Grand Prix. As now the Bullet has retired from this session, and the VSC has already been deployed. Let's see if I can find where the Aston Martin crashed. But yeah, that's a bad start so far from both of the Astons. And any VSC period is going to help those who are thinking about going for the one-stop as you come down the order. So let's see where we are on the grid. So let's go to position changes. So let's look like who's really benefited. Platty's gone up 5. Padge has gone up 3. Hyper's gone up 3. Sammy Style has gone up 3. Fairley and Iros Jane gone up 1, and Millsy unfortunately has lost out by a 3. But 10-10 is certainly got to be the big loser in that, because he just dropped all the way to the back. With no real indication of when the VSC is going to end. As you can see with Fairley, straight away he's clinging onto the back of that Alpine, waiting for as soon as he can for the times. As soon for the time to end, the VSC to end, he will be all over the back of that Alpine. But everyone has got to stay to the Delta, but also we're keeping their tyres and everything warm. So that is just a case of making sure who has got their tyres warm. And the VSC period has come to an end, and the gap between Fairley and Iros J is almost at a second already. As there we see the Sun God dropping back the order. Commence has dropped back and Appy's dropped back. But it looks relatively tidy, as 1010 comes out of the pits and now goes onto the medium tyre. So unfortunately, that's his race certainly compromised. He'll certainly be hoping for a safety car. Fairley has now got the Alfa Romeo of IIRL J to contend with. He takes a very wide line there, but usually wide I should say well for the exit of another. But the McLaren is certainly under pressure. The medium tyres do not look like the ones to be on at the moment. And with 4 tenths behind, he could even attempt an overtake even without DRS here. He'll have his energy on, and looks like he's going to sail past the McLaren. He goes round to the inside. Is he going to clear him by the time he gets to the corner? No, he's going to brave it out. Oh, and that was so close. But IIRL J in the Alfa Romeo takes second position. It's not been a good start for McLaren. There are yellows in Sector 1. What has happened there? I think one of the McLarens may have had a moment. It may have been Millsy, and Millsy is under attack from IIRL Appy. So the start is getting worse for McLaren, it seems. It just goes to show those who are starting on the medium tyre just don't have the grip at the moment. So what may be wise in other tracks is not necessarily the wisest this time around. But Sammy Style he's just within DRS zone of Fairley, who's also just within DRS of IIRL J. And SLR Connor, on the other hand, is really getting away now. He's almost 2 seconds up from his competitor. And the fastest lap already from the Alpine is becoming, once again, the familiar theme of the Alpines being near on unstoppable in this tier. Let's go on board with Hawks, who this is essentially his comeback race. So with the softer tyres on, he's got the Haas to tend to overtake, but he has not activated the DRS, so I don't think he'll be attempting a pass this lap. As Platty now duels with Sun God and gets through. So one of the Alpines drops back, the other looks to be scampering away at the moment. As already we have our first 3-second time penalty of this round, as it's IIRL Hyper has had a moment, and 1010 race going from bad to worse would have spun his tyres into oblivion, and now with the leaders coming up, he has got to stay out of the way and think very sensibly goes to the wide runoff just to make sure that when Connor comes round, as he does, he stays out of the way. And there we go, he gets out of the way of his teammate. In fact, he's ghosting, it seems. He's ghosted. Now Millsy looks like he's overtaken Sun God, and both Red Bulls has time penalties. And that's a 5-second penalty now for 1010, who's now, I believe, retired from the session. And obviously commiserations to him, it just did not go his way at all. So things look to be steadying on out at the front. As I say that, we have quite an intense battle between Millsy and Sun God. Now, does the McLaren have DRS on the Haas? No, it doesn't. But the Alpine has got DRS on the McLaren. But it doesn't look like he's got the space to use it. So he resides back for now. The others in Sector 1. So that'll be for 1010's retirement. Sun God stays with him. Yeah, I feel for 1010 too. It's a massive shame he obviously had to retire the way that he did. And Millsy, he's doing a pretty good job, all things considered, that he's on the mediums and he's staying he's almost out of range from Sun God, it has to be said, who is under attack from Appy. I know a lot of these drivers do struggle, and I know I struggle myself with the traction, as Fairley, interesting enough, comes now into the pit lane, and it looks like he's repairing front wing damage. Yes, which now drops the McLaren, who has gone yet another from bad to word moment for the McLaren, as it all looks pretty sweet and pristine for this man, SLR Connor, who on lap 6 of the Mexican Grand Prix, has got a 2-second gap to IIRL. Behind him is Sammy Style, who is in 3rd position in the AlphaTauri. Platty in 4th in the Haas. Millsy only a second behind Platty, so this is a very strong drive, I think, from him. At least with this part, we'll get the medium tyres out the way, and that way he'll be able to go onto softs, should he choose. Let's see how close the battles are getting behind. We have Wiggles, Commence, and Hawks all fighting each other. This is probably where the closest battle is right now, because there's only about 5/10 in it between Wiggles and Commence, and 5/10 between Wiggles and Appy. But APS Hawk on his comeback race is right behind these guys, and he's got about a 4/10 gap. So he's got overtake on, and he's got the DRS zone. He's got DRS on as well. Wiggles will surely be able to pass Appy, but he's saving a little bit of energy, so I don't know whether that's a sort of reservation thing or whether he actually doesn't feel he can overtake. But those medium tyres, if he gets them far, then that's just going to make his life on the softs, should he go to softs, much, much better. And another time penalty for Hyper in the Red Bull. As look behind, Hawks is... Oh, look at that. Hawks has overtaken Commence into 9th place. That's a lovely, clean move there from APS Hawks, who is racing the number 19, which belonged to Felipe Massa. Commence drops behind, and now the Aston has now got the AlphaTauri of Wiggles to go. With lap 7, hopefully for him, his tyres should have a bit more life left in them, but this may be getting round to the stage where the soft tyres are maybe starting to burn out a little bit. I think Appy for sure is under pressure from Wiggles. Has he got overtake on? Yes, he does, and this could be a overtake is well and truly on for the AlphaTauri. He goes round to the inside of the first corner, and he makes the overtake work. And at the same time, Hawks is not too far behind himself. Appy will not have DRS. That's a very good point. Appy won't have DRS. He will have a slipstream, but APS Hawks will have that as well. It looks like the Mercedes is staying with the AlphaTauri, so he won't lose any positions. So this looks like where the battle is at the moment. Fairley has got a time penalty of 3 seconds for corner cutting. So this looks like where the action is, and Appy has had a moment there. It looks like Hawks, unfortunately, that does throw him off a little bit. Let's see if he can take advantage. The Mercedes is under pressure. The Mercedes struggling to stay with the AlphaTauri, who's struggling to shake the Aston Martin. As we see Hawks around the outside, but he's not going to make it work. That could open the door for the Haas behind him. And now it is really tightening up between 7th, 8th and 9th place as things are staying out in between the leaders. And it looks like there may be in a moment behind for Padge, but IIRL Appy is losing out to APS Hawks, who goes for the overtake. He hasn't got overtake activated, but he's certainly got DRS. And now the Haas looks like he's going to follow through, and he's not quite done it yet. Mercedes are just falling back at this race, and Padge has come in, and I believe he's retired from this race. I think he just lost the car, and it's probably got too much damage for him to continue. But this is where the action's really heating up. Now, on lap 9, things seem to be stabling out in the lead, but it looks like 3rd place Sammy Style is under pressure from Platty, who's well within the DRS, and that could be another overtake eventually for the cars, one for the podium positions that we may have to follow. And Appy and Commence are fighting amongst themselves, but doesn't look like anything's going to happen. And SLR Connor has actually come into the pits. So that's a crucial stop. He goes onto the medium compound tyre, so it is a two-stop that's going to be happening for SLR Connor. And Sammy Style also in the pits, in the AlphaTauri. He's going to be going onto the mediums. Appy also coming into the pits. So already we have 3 pit stops, and now it is time for him to absolutely send it to make sure that he gets the time there. Wiggles is now fighting with APS Hawks, who still, for his comeback race, is certainly doing a very, very good drive, but he'll certainly want to come in now to, as the leaders are, because the undercut is particularly quite powerful around this track. So they can see on the screen just who exactly has made a pit stop. It's SLR Connor, Fairley, Sammy Style, APS Greg, and IIRL Appy. But now it's really heating up between Sun God, Wiggles, and APS Hawks. Hawks is right on the back of him. This is not good. As Sun God pits, does Wiggles have DRS? Will he have got it from the Alpine? No, he doesn't. Hawks has dropped very far behind himself, but SLR Connor gets out way out in front. Iros J goes out onto the softs, but he's lost probably about a second due to the undercut. As Fairley ends up in 7th place, ahead rather of Sammy Style. Platty is behind them on the softs. But can the AlphaTauri overtake the McLaren? He goes round to the outside of turn 4. Can he make the move stick? He hangs it around the outside, and I have to say, with the closing out the inside, he forces him off the track. It looks like a little bit of contact between the two, but now Platty's getting in on the yard. These two cars are absolutely glued together. But I have to say, from Sammy Style, that was a very opportunistic pass, a bit aggressive, I say maybe from defense, but he's made the move stick, and that's racing. That's just the way it goes. But he is now coming under pressure from Platty and Fairley. Fairley's had 4 laps to get used to these mediums, so he should have an idea of where the grip is, whereas Sammy Style, on the other hand, don't think he's had a full lap yet, so he may not know what the grip is, but will have fresh life in those tyres. As Let's Go on board with the McLaren, who is certainly going to be losing out to the Haas at this point, who's only a 10th behind. It looks very evident that the Haas is going to go through, and he does. But now Sammy Style is the one under pressure. And Hawks looks like he's doing a bit of a blinder, staying out on the medium tyres. Now can the Haas pass the AlphaTauri? Goes down to the inside. Can he make it stick? Not quite. No, but he's hanging out. He's trying. But he had to go over the track to overtake him, so I think he may have to give that position up. But it's certainly getting very, very punchy between these three. Looks like this is where the close battle is at the moment. As Commence goes into the pits, that's really going to help SLR Connor, who may be on the slower tyre, but he will have the high ground later on, as he's had a few seconds in his pocket, but I imagine he'll have some soft tyres right at the end. Whereas Ross J, on the other hand, will surely have to go onto the soft compound tyres and see what's happened. IRS Hyper has had a present, and the safety car has been deployed. We have our first safety car of the race, which is definitely going to throw the race around into some kind of order. But now that we see both Red Bulls unfortunately out, it looks like Padge crashed out in the stadium section, so expect about 3 laps or so behind the safety car. This has surely got to be the time for It's got to be time for the top 3 certainly to come into the pits. Staying out is not the option now. The safety car's in, and you're not going to lose as much time behind it. Hawks could have played a blinder here. Staying out long on those soft tyres may actually help him, as Millsy for sure goes into the pits. Sun God gets a time penalty. Yes, we see Hawks go into the pits as well. Wiggles as well into the pits. So, SLR Connor will inherit the lead. And I have to say, I think the safety car coming out is more than likely going to benefit him more than it's going to benefit IIRL, because he'll have less laps to do, I believe, on the soft tyres, which means that come near the end of the race, he'll be absolutely lightning. Sammy Starr rounds him up in 4th. Millsy actually finds himself back into contention, because he's now in 5th. He doesn't have to run any other tyre because he started on mediums. The McLaren is coming back into play. Because you see Sun God, who's also gone into the mediums, he'll have a 3-second time penalty applied to his time. So Hawks now is up into P7 with his efforts, and Wiggles is now in P8. Appy in P9, and Commence is in P10. We have the McLaren of Fairley right behind, and we also in P11, who's also going to come back into play, and also Greg is back into play, thankfully, because of the safety car. So by the end of say next lap, we'll have all these cars back together, and that essentially resets the clock. Okay, so now with the safety car coming out, guys, how do you feel this race is going to go? Who is going to benefit the most here? Who's going to remain cool? Who's going to keep the heat in their tyres? All means, guys, let me know. As Hyper left the session. That's a shame, unfortunately. Unfortunately, if you get floor damage on this game, then that really does ruin the balance with the car. So sorry that's gone your way. You see behind, it looks like Appy has also made a stop as well. Is the safety car going to come in? It's lap 15. It looks like everyone should be bundled up together. This will probably be... No, the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. And Connor, I have to say, should be feeling a little bit of pressure. He won't have the outright grip that the soft tyres will have. And a few laps under the safety car should help out the runners behind him as well. But he has been absolutely lightning, as it showed in qualifying. Can he hang on to the lead? It looks like he's dropped it there. He's let everything go. But with cold tyres, it looks like he's done a good job of hanging that out. But now the race gets back underway, and he's moving left immediately to cover the toe that IIRL will be getting off from him. And there we go, he's weaving yet again. And behind Millsy, looks to be making a move on Sammy Style. But SLR Connor has not, he doesn't back down. He's the overtaking him. He must have protected him for now. And Sammy Style has got a time penalty for multiple warnings, as Platty now joins the fight between these two. Is IIRL going to attempt to move? No, it doesn't look like it. He has to hang back. As you see behind, the McLaren harassing the back of the AlphaTauri. Wiggles now as a time penalty, and look at the drive that McLaren gets. He actually does him with via a switchback just before the S's. So Millsy takes 4th position from Sammy Style. Nice little piece of opportunist driving. As Sungod now comes under pressure from the Aston Martin of APS Hawks, who I have to say is certainly enjoying himself out there on his comeback race. Fairley drops down to 9th, and he's got a time penalty now for multiple track warnings. Wiggles now drops down. He's now fighting with Wiggles, but now this is where it all matters in the lead. SLR Connor. It's going to be a drag race down to the first corner between these two. It looks like IIRL having the inside will have the high ground. And what is the Alpine going to do? It looks like he's going to tough out somewhere. Locks up the right rear. And IIRL takes the lead, which kind of shifts the tide of this race in terms of how it could go, because there's medium tyres. If IIRL can pull out a 1 second gap, then that should protect him from DRS. And that means that IIRL could focus a little bit more looking after his tyres, because he's got to get those softs as far as he can, enjoys the pace, because those mediums are not as fast as the softs that SLR Connor is certainly going to have. As you can see just how much the medium tyre runner is suffering due to a lack of grip, because it's only 4 tenths now between himself and Platty, and penalties galore at the moment. So that's a 3 second time penalty for him, and that's not going to help him later on in this race. Oh, and look at the almost contact there between Millsy and Platty. This is certainly heating up between 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. It's clear that on the medium tyre, he is certainly struggling there. The medium tyre runners are, I don't know whether they're not getting heat or they just don't have the grip, but they are dropping like stones at the moment. However, it is going to be probably 3 abreast into the first corner. What is happening here? Platty goes into 2nd, and SLR Connor may be losing out 3rd position as well to Millsy. Millsy does him around the outside, and what a move. So close. You don't know where to look. The amount of action that's been going on this race has been truly incredible to watch, as SLR Connor definitely thinks better of it. That is certainly going to help IIRL in his bid for the lead and the eventual win. As Sammy Style hangs about in 5th, he's got Hawks to contend with in 6th. Sun God drops down to 7th, with Wiggles and Fairley 8th and 9th. This really is the track where the tyre difference really does show. And with Sun God on mediums, he is almost victim now to Mr. Wiggles. He goes round to the outside, and he just like that. It's fairly easy pickings. The ones on the medium tyres are really struggling. Oh, and what's happened to Hawks? Hawks has had a moment and has dropped off all the way down into 8th position, and that is a costly mistake for him, and now down to 9th position now. As it looking on the calendar, looking on the screen, it is starting to rain. Amazing. Oh, look at that. Sun God fighting with Fairley. It is so close between these guys. In fact, you don't know where to look this race. This is truly brilliant stuff. And we've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Even the Mercedes now are certainly getting in on the act, as Fairley goes down to the inside to take 7th place from Sun God. Sun God fights him onto the inside. He goes into the side. I think it may have been a little bit of contact between the two. This is truly brilliant racing, and if you're watching this, let us know how you've been, because I am certainly enjoying this and somehow managing not to run out of breath. Let's back up the lead. It looks like things are starting to even out, and with the rain coming down, the soft tyre runners, they could work out to their advantage. With Bertie Boy, thank you so much for following. I think there's a few followers this far. And the safety car has been called out yet again. Hawks, unfortunately, has retired. And that is the 2nd safety car of this Grand Prix. And with rain coming down, that is going to throw everything completely out of kilter. you can bet within a couple of laps or so, and we see Sammy Style fairly commence. Wiggles actually going into the full wet tyres now. Unbelievable stuff. With the rain showing up as well, it is truly incredible stuff. With everyone's pace been somewhat neutralised by the safety car, the question is, the top four now surely have got to come into the pits to go on to intermediates, because with the rain coming, it kind of sets you up. I mean, if you were to pit when the safety car's ended, you're just going to drop all the way to the back. You've got to take the intermediates now. Any kind of consolation is that Sammy Style, because this track, the problem is the track isn't wet enough yet for intermediates. And the problem with that is, they're going to take more life out of them. So when it does get to rain, you won't always have the grip that you need. There's so many possibilities as to what's happening here, as we see quite sensibly, Iros J goes into the pits, Millsy goes into the pits, Platty goes into the pits, and SLR Connor goes into the pits, and I all suspect that they're going to be going straight onto the intermediate tyre, and yes, they all are. I reckon they'll all certainly get out just before Sammy Style. And Sun God now goes onto the medium tyre. SLR Connor is going out onto the soft compound tyre. So we got confusing strategies here as the rain's starting to come down. This could be either a brilliant move from SLR Connor, or he's going to end up like Lando Norris in Russia. As I stand corrected, Sun God changes onto intermediates, and Wiggles is on full wets at the moment, so not quite sure what he was thinking there. Goes on to the intermediates. What on earth? We're just over half distance for this Mexican Grand Prix as the rain starts to come down. It's very, very light, but a split strategy from SLR Connor. He is put on dry tyres on a track which I kind of get the impression is just going to get even wetter and wetter, so that if the rain stays like this, it doesn't take too much out of the dries, then it's a blinder. But it'll probably get so wet to the point that intermediates will be necessary, which means the Alpine will have to go all the way to the back. Then again, guys, we'll have to wait and see. Platty is coming to the pits. As you can see, it's still raining, but what is Platty doing? Okay, so he's come onto the pits and put on another set of intermediate tyres. Why has he done that? Did he really just burn out all the life on those tyres? So that's certainly a position gain for SLR Connor, but this is quite... Honestly, guys, I have no idea how to call this. Because surely those, even those laps behind the safety car on intermediates, they're surely not beneficial. They'll take plenty of life out of them. SLR Connor will surely breeze past. This could be a blinder maybe from SLR Connor. Honestly, I have no idea how to call this, guys. I think we should know by now if the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Is it still raining? Safety car is coming in this lap, and as you can see, the water drops on the cars are much more evident, so the rain, I think, is getting heavier. It's not going to benefit the leaders, but hopefully but from SLR Connor's point of view, if he can overtake those cars, then that should help him pull out enough of a gap to make up some of the deficit he would have lost with a pit stop. This has got to be one of the strangest races I've ever commentated on, but it's going to go out under. It's going to go back under the racing conditions once more. Let's roll on board with the Alpine and see what he does. His tyres will be somewhat cold. Is he going to go for a move? Yes, he is. He comes round from the inside. He leaves the space, but it's a fairly quick move, has to be said, done and dusted. As now, the dry-tired SLR Connor is right on the back of IIRL, and he immediately goes round to the inside, but the Alfa Romeo chops him off completely. He does not want that Alpine ahead of him and saving lots and lots of time, as Appy gets multiple warnings, and you see Connor, with all the grip in the world, just drives right round alongside of him. He has now got to move it if he wants to claw back and stand any chance left of winning this race. Looks like everyone around has to be so gentle with managing their tyres, and look at the time he's building up already. Already it's about 3/10 within these slower sections of the lap. This is where he's really going to make up the time. But it doesn't look like it's wet enough yet for the full intermediates. This is really working out in Connor's favour. Looks like the rain is still there, but it doesn't look like it's actually wet enough. It's all coming back to SLR Connor. In corners like this, anywhere where you have to get some braking on, that doesn't help the intermediates at all. As you can see through IIRL cars, he ended up having to lock up, and that's lost him position to Millsy. This could be one of those Donington-esque drives that we saw Ayrton Senna pull up, being on the right tyre at the right time. As Sammy Style looks like he's losing out to Fairley. It looks like he's edged him out under braking, and he's locking up so much, but the AlphaTauri falls behind the McLaren. The gamble really looks to be working in his favour. He's pulled off, I think, nearly 6 seconds already on this lap. Probably about one more lap or so, and he would have gained himself another pit stop over these guys. This could be a truly brilliant gamble from him. So it looks like that's the way it's going to be. DRS is still enabled, but everyone else on the intermediate tyre is certainly going to be losing out. Appy decides to go onto the softs. Greg decides to go out onto the mediums. But it's just so hard conditions to call here. Connors, it looks like he's been playing a blinder here, but the rest looks like they're kind of stubbornly staying out on the intermediate tyres, so it doesn't look like the best move right now. This is a crazy old race to watch. Certainly on the same level indeed, as he's only made up about 3 or 4 seconds this time around, so maybe the track is getting just that little bit wetter. But those on the intermediates, I remember I tried a similar gamble like this in a race so far in an open lobby, but it didn't quite work out the interesting way. And I have to say, the IIRL, my team, unfortunately experienced something like this in the most recent race. So, absolutely, mate. I'm really glad you're joining our race. It's certainly a mad session to commentate on at the least. But now he's pulled out about 7 seconds on these two cars as Millsy comes into the pit, so the gamble has not worked. But this could work if the track doesn't get any wetter. It could work out potentially against Connor, unless he chooses to stay out. This has been an absolutely bonkers race, and Sammy Style now gets a 5-minute penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and he unfortunately has dropped all the way back. So that's him in P11. So it looks like a free pit stop indefinitely in SLR Connor's pocket. The top 3 who are staying out onto the intermediates, it looks like it hasn't worked, the strategy. It doesn't look like for a second that it's been wet enough to get onto the rain, to get onto the full intermediate tyres. So the last time set by Connor was a 1:20. The time set by IIRL coming around the final corner now. It's 1:24, 25. He's coming into the pits. As with SunGod, no, SunGod is staying out. But his time relative to is 8 seconds slower. Wiggles now comes into the pits. That will surely put Millsy into second, but this man doesn't need to be fast. He doesn't need to overdo it. He just needs to drive safe and drive smart, because with all those laps on the soft compound tyre, it's about 5 laps he's done on them. You still got to get those tyres to the end of the race in good nick, but the time is just building more and more in his favour. What a brilliant strategy call it looks like from the Alpine driver. A strategy that will that's such a tyre choice that would have caught out even the best of them. Certainly slower, but it's not slow enough to justify the intermediate tyres. Doesn't look like there's actually any standing water coming off from the back of the cars. That's how you know. This 3-second penalty that Connor's got seems almost redundant at this point, as SunGod overheating those tyres like crazy. But with all things considered, it looks like he's trying to stay out to see if it does go to intermediate tyre. But this man looks to have thought ahead more than anyone around here. But still, anything can happen as you see the Alpine struggling like crazy for grip. And you can see the back end steps out of that as well. This should be a very, very easy pass, I think, for the McLaren. And I think the Alpine knows not to fight that one. Looks like everybody around has got a time penalty, save for this man, Millsy. It certainly keeps it penalty free, but what a drive and what a strategy call so far for SLR Connor, whose lap times are slowly fading a little bit, but he's got time to play with. He's got nearly a minute ahead of Millsy. Oh, that's a massive lock-up though. It looks like the tyres may be starting to go off, with raindrops standing on the car. Maybe the track surface is getting a little bit slippery now. Yes, it looks like the tyres are getting very, very cold on that Alpine. But with a 40-second advantage, it's in his pocket now. He can afford to lose 4 seconds a lap. That will get him the win. As Commence loses out to Fairley and IIRL. Millsy is slowly catching up to the back of SLR Connor though, and it doesn't look like the strategy has actually worked for SunGod, who I think at this point is just hanging on for dear life. I think it has to be said. As it looks like Sammy Style may very well be going a lap down very, very soon. No, we don't want any unfair brake testing. We want a clean race. as the Sun God very stubbornly staying on that tyre, but it is really not paying off. As you can see, he's got another load of time penalties going this way. He drops down to 5th position. Surely those tyres must be burned out, and he's got to accept defeat at some point. But this rain is certainly a new experience that I've commentated on at the moment in this, ever since I joined the IIRL League, that it's just been an absolutely crazy race to watch. It's been impossible to call in terms of strategy, as we see the Haas of Commence may struggle to overtake, but he'll have all the grip in the world when it comes to the actual corner. But he stays behind. As you see, the Mercedes now of Greg is now coming up against the Haas. He should get a brilliant run out of turn 3. But the Haas has got to pass the Alpine now, otherwise he's going to get held up like mad. It's got to be now. He's got to nail him into the S's, but he's still struggling to get past. As you see, Sun God just weaving all over the track thanks to the lack of grip on his tyres. I can't tell whether the rain is actually getting worse, if I'm honest. But as you can see, the track surface is without a doubt going to get slippery, even more slippery and slippery. As Sun God is still side by side with the Haas, and he's still stubbornly hanging on. I gotta be honest. I mean, you gotta love Sun God for his defiance there, because he knows he's on the wrong tyre, but you know what? He's still defending with an inch of his life. So I've got to give him that. As Greg comes into the pits, he is actually now on intermediates. So this maybe now is time for Sun God. Maybe it'll come back into Sun God's favour. But what's happened here? Sammy Style has crashed out. Yes, it looks like Sammy Style has crashed out in the Haas. So unfortunately, that's a DNF for him. I think he'd just gone onto the intermediate tyres. But it looks like, I don't know whether the standing water is showing off the tyres, but if you look on the track in front of us, it is looking so much more slippery now. And it looks like the track is certainly starting to come to the intermediates, as Appy is not too far that ahead actually from SLR Connor. The gap to the leader is 1 minute 20. Let's see if that time changes or if it goes up or down. That way Connor will know for sure whether it's the right time to go on to the intermediates. No, but he's gaining by well over a second. Anything can happen. On the bright side, at least if you finish this race, you're guaranteed to score a point. But this is certainly turned into one of the craziest races I've ever commentated on. It's about 2 seconds the gap between them now. Fairley is now retired from the session. Fairley is now retiring, and Commence is now going on to the intermediate tyre. Connor is still winding the gap between himself and Appy. He's still outpacing them on the intermediate tyres. So it looks like DRS is still active, but no stress for him at all. He's just got to get those tyres through in good condition. But yeah, the flags in Sector 1. That will be for Fairley, who I believe has now retired from this session. With 11 laps on those soft tyres, he's just got to take it easy. He can afford to lose a tiny bit of time. We're looking at the gap to the leader. So 1 minute 24 now between himself and Appy. He's actually catching up to the back and will surely lap him before he comes into the pits. If he comes into the pits, that is. Very tricky conditions to drive. As Appy very sensibly stays out of the way. What's happening for 4th and 5th? Looks like it's coming back to Sun God. He overtakes. DRS is active. Is that a sign then? Then it's definitely going to come back to those on the intermediate tyre. It's starting to look very slippery down there. I hate to know how much life is left in his tyres, because they must be crying out right now. So let's watch the gap between Sun God and Wiggles and see if it gets any bigger. I think that would be a sure sign, but coming up to near the end of this race, then I highly doubt that it would be anything. It could be an absolute blinder from Sun God if he ends up in a 4th position because of this, but he's still got 6 seconds of penalties, which will surely hand it to and look at that, what's happened to Platty? Platty looks like he's spun in the Haas, so Platty drops back and back and back, which should mean that as long as Sun God stays in front of Wiggles, they should get him 4th, as he stubbornly stays on those intermediates still. This is such a weird crossover point. You literally just don't know which is the right tyre at the moment, but 6th place is still a decent result for the Haas. There might have been a reset on the track. It was very sort of tidy, it must be said, but maybe we'll probably need to look into that. But let's see what Wiggles does. No, he's not going for the overtake. He hasn't got the confidence, it seems. Oh, and Wiggles has spun it. As he gets around, Wiggles has spun the car and is following right back into Platty's clutches. That means he'll surely lose out to the Haas, which drops him now potentially down into 6th. But no, he's got DRS from when he had it against Sun God. But the Haas is ahead, almost barges his way through there. As SLR Connor plays it very, very safe and goes on to the intermediates. There's no need for him to push. With DRS disabled now, that's the clear evidence. As with Millsy and IIRL still on the dry tyres, he's got 12 seconds to Sun God, but can he stay out and can he make it work? A podium is on the line here for sure. Wiggles, as you can see, is losing time potentially to Sun God. DRS has been disabled, so it's going to be hard for Platty to pass, but it's certainly coming to those on the intermediate tyres now. And with Sun God on his 13 lap old intermediates, I mean, I have to give him credit for toughing it out and making it work. Millsy, as you can see, is just unable to close up on those dry tyres. It's all going SLR Connor's way. The gamble to stay out and put on the soft tyres when the track just wasn't wet enough really was a blinding one, it has to be said, as Sun God starts to make inroads now on IIRL, who's got 11 seconds to him, but I don't think it's going to be enough. As the leader goes through to start his final lap, Millsy is certainly beaten for sure, but he can't pit because he'll give up a second place position. He just has to tough it out on these tyres. As IIRL struggles to get the power down. How does this affect Sun God? He'll surely have much more grip, but very burned out tyres. So that will counter any advantage I think that he has. As Mr. Wiggles drops behind Sun God by about 2 seconds. As APS Greg now is following up to the back of the Haas. And look at that. That's a horrid moment there for Platty, who crashes the car and has to finish the race without a front wing. So he's surely going to end up last from that drive. But let's go back on to the onboard of the race winner, of the race leader so far, SLR Connor, who played an absolute blinding call with the strategy. He stayed out. You know, they say fortune favours the brave. He's certainly been the brave man today. SLR Connor comes across the line to win the Mexican Grand Prix by 22 seconds from Millsy. He wins in Mexico. The McLaren, who we thought was out of the running with starting off on the wrong tyre, but he's done well to nurse that car home on dry tyres, it has to be said, as Wiggles is now losing out to Greg, so it looks like he may very well get him here, and Greg has got him here. Sorry to cut across from Millsy coming across the line, but there we have Iros J coming across the line to round off the podium slots. Sun God sticking it out on the soft tyres, a very stubborn choice, but it certainly worked. Brilliant stuff for him to claim 4th place in the Alpine. APS Greg comes round the final corner to take 5th place in the Mercedes. As Mr. Wiggles loses out to commence, who now drops down to 7th position. The Haas comes round to finish in 6th. Appy comes round to finish in 8th, and the Haas, who has no front wing, is sliding around all over the place. Oh, that feels so cruel, but I gotta be honest, it is a lovely sight. He's still not giving up. And oh, he's lost the corner. This I shouldn't be laughing, but this is just brilliant. Oh, he loses the front wing. Props to you, Platty. I think that's certainly a mention for one of the best moments of the race so far. Greg gets driver of the day, but I think for me, for his call on the strategy for a serene pace, I'm going to have to give it to SLR Connor. That was a brilliant drive from lights to flag, and that is an example of a Donington-esque victory, I think, for SLR Connor, who was on the right tyre at the right time, and boy did he make that one work. Oh, I think I ran out of breath after that one. It was certainly a chaotic race, but it's never a dull moment with IIRL, and it's an absolute pleasure to commentate on this one yet again. So we'll run through the order of everyone. So we have SLR Connor from pole to flag. We have Millsy in 2nd in the McLaren. Iros J takes fastest lap and 3rd in the Alfa Romeo. Sun God takes 4th on burned out intermediates. APS Greg, who despite floor damage gets 5th place, so very strong result for him. Commences in 6th in the Haas. Wiggles 7th in the AlphaTauri. Appy is in 8th, and Platty, after losing his front wing, rounds them off in 9th. Fairly crashed out in 10th, and going through the retirees, you had Sammy Style, APS Hawks, Hyper, Padge, 1010, and Bullet as well. So there we have it, folks. That's the end of this stream, and 8 Assist Tier 1 has certainly come back with a bang, hasn't it, guys? So if you stuck with us until the end, thank you all so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys aboard with the stream. And if you'd like to follow IRL's My Team Career Mode, follow the Spark66 YouTube channel, and we'll get to see the My Team of IRL colours, see progressing through the My Team Career Mode there. So plenty of stuff for you to get entertained on there. So guys, thank you all so much for watching, and tune in on Sunday's race, where I believe TD will be commentating, where Assist Tier 2, while I will be racing on there. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next stream. Have a nice week.